Welcome to a brief video describing the results of FPath Experiment 004. FPath is my project name for experiments on the Feynman Path to nanotechnology. And what is the Feynman Path to nanotechnology, you may wonder? Well, it is the idea that you have large machines make smaller machines, which in turn make smaller machines, and so on, until you reach the point where you can reliably move atoms about at the nanometer scale. Of course, this experiment is nowhere near that yet. It is still operating on the scale of centimeters. But hey, you have to start somewhere. This experiment demonstrates the controlled motion of a movable red circle over a linear path drawn in the color green. One interesting thing about this experiment is that the green path does not physically exist. It is entirely virtual and is only drawn on the screen by the Walnut control software. If you wish, you can find out more about the Walnut software by following the link in this video's description. So, the basic idea is the red circle finds the green path and then follows it to the end. Let's have a look at this happening now. After that, we'll discuss how it does it and why this opens up lots of interesting experimental possibilities. That's interesting. The red circle finds the nearest part of the green path and then moves on to it. Once it moves over the green path, the green pixels which intersect with the area of the red circle disappear. The red circle then moves toward the next green pixel it can find, and the process continues. How does it work? Well, let's walk through the process. You may recall from the video documenting FPath Experiment 003 that the Walnut software had the ability to move a red square onto the location of a virtual green target square. Squares are hard to work with, though, because you have to be concerned about the orientation of the square. Basically, if the square is rotated, you need to do some math to figure out which region of the pixels it occupies. Circles do not have this problem. By definition, they are the same in every orientation. So the first thing to do is to convert the system from recognizing squares to one that recognizes circles. You can see that the system can now recognize a red circle because a little black cross has been drawn on its center. This is a theme I will return to in this and other videos. If you have total control over the contents of the video stream, it opens up a lot of very interesting experimental options. The Walnut server software, running on a Windows 10 PC, is the thing providing this functionality. It uses Windows Media Foundation, WMF for short, to acquire the video feed from a rather ordinary USB webcam. WMF has the ability to place chunks of code called transforms into the path of the video stream. And once you have those in place, you can pretty much do anything you might wish to the video image. For example, at the moment you see a simple webcam image of a red circle. However, behind the scenes there is a transform which draws the bar along the bottom with the date and time. It's a bit of trivia, that thing is called a chiron. Another transform finds the circle via image recognition. Yet another transform splits the video feed and directs one branch to display so it can be viewed, and the other branch optionally goes to a file so it can be recorded. This file is what you're viewing at the moment. So what we have is a chain of operations on the video stream. Each operation on the chain either modifies it or extracts information from it. There is one remaining transform, but I will discuss that transform when we get to that part of the video. All of this code is written in C#, and all of the actions are handled in real time. Each frame receives the same processing as it moves through the system. WMF really is a fast and versatile tool once you get the hang of it. If you would like a simple, self-contained open source example of how to do image recognition with WMF and C#, check out the Prism 6 sample application. A link to the Prism project can be found in this video's description. Okay, we have a red circle being recognized, and we need a path for it to follow. We could just use a marker pen to draw this path on the bed of the display, but there is really no reason for the path to physically exist. Therefore, we code up a transform that can draw things on the video feed. I will now show a video with the overlay transform activated. Here we have a wavy path on the screen with a red circle beside it. In reality, this is just a 640 by 480 PNG file with a green line and a transparent background. The transform just overlays it right on top of each frame of the video feed. When we were moving a red square onto the location of a virtual green square, as you saw earlier, it made sense to place the overlay on the frame before the image recognition happens. That way, the same object recognition system could identify both squares for us, even if one was entirely virtual. Since recognizing the location of a green square, or green circle, is meaningless in this context, the object recognition operations have now been reordered in the chain of video stream processing. Object recognition now happens before the overlay is applied. Thus, all the object recognition system sees is the red circle, and it does not have to figure out how to ignore the green path. This reduces clutter and makes things much simpler for the recognition system. Small things like this make a big difference to performance and simplicity of design. So, the object recognition happens. As before, we know that the position of the red circle has been discovered because the transform has drawn a helpful little black cross on it. Once we have the center of the red circle, what we can do is find the nearest green point to that red circle. This gives us a target. So we write some code which can find the nearest green point to the center of the circle. You can see this in operation here. The cyan line is drawn from the center of the red circle to what the system thinks is the nearest green point. We can see that if we move the red circle, the next closest green point is found. Let me freeze the video and let's talk a bit more about what is happening here. At the moment, a simple PNG file is being read for the overlay. This is just for convenience. The image could be computer generated or derived from some other source. In any event, it gets stored in a bitmap. It is only read once. It does not get reread for each frame. The same in-memory bitmap is reused and gets overlaid on each frame. This opens up all kinds of interesting possibilities, since we can make changes to this bitmap, and the changes will persist in each video frame from that point on. To illustrate this, let's restart things and draw a black circle over the location of the red circle, no matter where the red circle might move. You can see that the black blobs form a kind of record, which overwrites the screen, and which also indicate where the red circle has been. In reality, the black circles are just being drawn on the overlay bitmap and placed in real time on the video feed. As a bit of trivia, this sort of thing is called compositing. Let's extend the concept a little bit. Instead of drawing a black blob on the overlay bitmap for every position of the red circle, why don't we just draw a transparent blob? If we do this, we can effectively erase anything on the overlay bitmap and the original image will show through. Note how that if the red circle moves over the green path, then the region it moves over will become transparent. This is because both the green path and the transparent right are happening on the overlay, not on the original frame from the video feed. The overlay modifications persist from frame to frame. Since the object recognition happened before the overlay is applied, you can see the little black cross still appears on the red circle. That cross is a modification of the original video frames in the feed, not of the overlay bitmap, so it does not get erased. This also has a nice effect that when the red circle moves, the black cross moves with it. Returning to the point. Since the movement of the red circle over the green path erases it, and we can also detect the nearest green point to the red square, it is not too difficult to tie these two operations together. All we need to do is have the Walnut software move the red circle onto the green point, just like we did earlier with the red and green squares. The red circle won't ever get to the green point, of course, since the act of moving it to the point erases everything green, but by the time it gets near, a new green point will have been found, and the software will adjust its target and try to move there instead. Let's restart things and see this in action. Thus the path, the green line, gets followed without complicated path planning. Similarly, there is not much of a requirement for accuracy. The closed-loop nature of the software continuously adjusts the path to cope with new conditions. You can see by the way the motor shafts are mounted on Lego bricks and wobbling like mad as they turn that they are pretty crude. Also note that the erasure of anything green the red circle is moved over makes the decisions the software has to make much easier. With simple paths like this, there can only ever be one nearest green point, and so the red circle continuously tries to move there. Extending this, note that we don't necessarily have to make the position of the red circle transparent on the bitmap. We could make it another color instead. Let's restart things again and show an example of the red square positions being marked with a cyan colored circle. Actually, it's being hit with a full-size transparent circle, then a smaller cyan circle so as to leave a thinner trail. This opens up even more possibilities. The cyan trail is also a path. To get back to where we started via the same path, we simply need to activate find the nearest cyan pixel and go there operation exactly as we did for the green. We can easily trigger this behavior when there are no more green pixels to be found. You can see that the circle has now reversed course and is traveling back to the start point over the cyan path. We could conceivably have a very complicated path which was modified in real time by other factors, and the red circle would reliably follow whatever path had actually happened back to its start position. Interestingly, this is the way ants find their way about, which is what gave me the idea, really. As ants wander about, they leave a trail of scent. When they want to return, they just follow the scent on the way back. Other ants can follow that same trail and they too will leave their scent. The stronger the scent, the more ants that will follow it, and so you can get lines of ants following a complex path to and from a food source, all without any planning or control. When ants do it, this behavior is called Stigmergy. I think I will refer to this particular technique as Graphical Stigmergy. Why do this? What's the point? Well, this experiment is intended to be part of a larger toolkit which will hopefully be useful in future Feynman Path experiments. If the path of a tool head can be continuously corrected independently of the quality of the actuators, closed-loop control in other words, then a lot of errors can be removed. This is important because as you have machines make smaller machines, the effects of errors compound. Well, that's all for this particular experiment. The next one really will be hardware, I promise. I have an idea what I'm going to do. I just needed the path following function to make it happen. Oh yes, I forgot to mention, you will have noticed that I use Lego bricks for a lot of my test apparatus. These are very useful. You can find out much more on them in the write-up on the Stego project. A link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.